Ohio Political News coming to you again live here tonight. We wouldn't have it any other way. Because if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it, right? If we don't do it, no one will do it. Okay, good to see everybody out there. Let's find out who we have tonight because we got a lot to cover. And at 8 o'clock, we're going to get into smart meters, and we are really going to dive deep into the smart meters. And John Mara, he's a mayor of Timberlake. He's going to be joining us for that. All right, guys. Let's do our daily rounds here.
Welcome. Nice to see everyone. Hi, Joe. Jonathan.
Yeah, how's
hey,
it going,
everybody.
Brian? Yep, Jonathan is with us here tonight. And we also have a special co-host guest. Where did you go? Let me find you. There you are.
Shelby. There he is.
Shelby Hunt.
There.
I just got through watching the Hunt for Red October, I believe it was called. I didn't watch much of it. It happened to be on the free channel, and I didn't find it too interesting. So yeah,
It's a great movie.
yeah, I guess maybe. All right, we got a lot to cover. I want to get look at all this we got to cover. So we're trying to get through some of it and see what's going on here in the world of Ohio politics. Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's start off with him here for a minute. So he's gotten 10 endorsements from the unions so far, the labor unions, 10 of them, which is 4 more than what Amy Acton has gotten. All right, so that's kind of unusual for a Republican to be getting so much union support because they usually just go for the Democrats. Now, why are they jumping on the side of Ramaswamy? Well, because they expect him to oppose what is called right to work, a right to work state. And a right to work state is a state that says you can become part of the union, but you don't have to pay union dues. You're not required to pay union dues. And that doesn't sit too well with the unions, obviously. But if you look at the country as a whole, all 50 states and stuff, you'll see that like the top 15, top 20 of them, these are all right to work states. Okay, they're the ones that are bringing in all the jobs and everything. The second thing is this prevailing, Ohio wage, preserving the Ohio's prevailing wage law. And that's the second thing that the unions want. What that does is that says you can hire non-union people if you want to have these big projects and stuff on the state. That's fine. You don't have to hire anybody who's union, but you got to pay them union wages. Okay? So, I mean, that's the whole idea of going to these private contractors and stuff because you can pay them a lot less than you would union. But this is a law in Ohio right now that says you can, but you got to pay them union wages. So that's why, and then there's another idea that the unions are on the side of Ramaswamy. A lot of them are going that way is because we just have a lot of Republicans that keep winning statewide elections. And if you're going to put your money with either Ramaswamy or you're going to put it with Amy Acton, if you're a betting man, I would strongly suggest putting your money with Ramaswamy. Okay, now, here's something else that I found to be really interesting. Again, if you want to hear what a politician really sounds like, get a load of this here, okay? Now, Ramaswamy, they were saying, well, how is he on other unions? He doesn't like the teachers union, which I think is a thumbs up if you guys would agree with that. He does not like the teachers union. He wants to get rid of that. And here's what he said about the teachers union. Last month in Mansfield News-Journal, Ramaswamy said that, I certainly have never said that I'm running a campaign for governor to eliminate the teachers union, but I'm certainly not running a campaign not to eliminate the teachers union. So that is a good answer from a politician. But anyhow, I just thought it was interesting. So a lot of the unions are jumping on the back of Ramaswamy to get involved with that. Now here's something else you guys may not have been aware of. You guys remember Jerry Springer? Mm-hmm. You remember Jerry Springer? Yeah. He had all those goofy TV shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, he was a mayor of Cincinnati for a while, right? Too.
That's what I was going to get
that's
at.
right.
He was a mayor. Watch this a second here. This is him.
If you just joined us, this is our first show, and we're putting together people who haven't seen each other for 35 years.
This was the craziest wacko show. All right, do you guys remember, the Jerry Springer show? I mean, that was as offbeat and as crazy as it gets. But yeah, right, that's what I was going to say, Shelby. He was the mayor of Cincinnati. Just to give you some background on him here, and let me know if you have any comments on this. But he was elected to the city council in 1971. In 1974, he resigned because he was caught soliciting a prostitute, okay? He then ran the following year, and he won. And then he won again and again for city council. And then for 1 year during his tenure, they had to put somebody in there for a year as kind of, a replacement type mayor just for a year. So he was the one, okay? But here's the thing I want to get to. In 1982, he ran to be governor of Ohio. Governor of Ohio in 1982. And this is the last time, Brian, that the Democrats were battling each other in a primary for governor. And it was Jerry Springer, him and Dick Celeste battling it out. And there was Ohio Attorney General also, William Brown.
Joe, I hate to rain on anybody's parade, any of the Republicans' parade. I don't know, how long has that been that the Republicans have been controlling the state of Ohio? All I know is that Ohio is first in aviation, and they're 47th in everything else. So the Republicans they can't stand on their laurels to say, well, look what we've done for this great state of Ohio. My opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
So
on that,
I mean,
but
it's like Jerry Springer. They've had the Jerry Springer show, since Jerry Springer left in the Republican Party.
yeah, the Jerry Springer show it never ends is what you're saying there. Yeah, but anyhow, you're right. I never thought of it that way, but things haven't changed much actually. I was going to say how ridiculous it would be to have somebody like Jerry Springer running for governor, but then I just realized it ain't that really all that crazy, because what have the Republicans really done? Well, they're trying to do. I got to say this though, in behalf of the Republicans, they have done a lot better than the Democrats. Could you imagine where we'd be right now if you had a governor like? Well, let me put it this way: would you rather have Jerry Springer or Mike DeWine?
Where's Jerry when you need him, really?
Right, exactly.
I guess maybe I shouldn't have put it exactly in those terms. Yeah. All right.
Before you move on,
Yeah.
it's not often that we have corrections on this show, but I feel the need to step in with a correction to the comments just made on Ohio political news. The Republicans who have run in the past several elections have run Ohio to the approximately 37th position. We're missing the air quotes. I'm sorry, Brian, but I had to step in and miss the air quote. The open primaries and the fact that the Democrats have been open for decades now about they acknowledge they can't win in many places with a D next to their name, so they invaded the Republican Party. I've said it before and I'm going to keep saying it. I refuse to acknowledge that these last Tuesday's wash-up Democrats are somehow now supposed to be referred to as Republican. We see the fallout and the damage of that. Those are not actually Republicans. By the way, don't forget to find and follow Ohio Rhino Hunters, because if we have any hope, it's going to be to eliminate the rhinos in the Republican Party. One last thing, just in case people didn't know, you're talking about Jerry Springer being in Cincinnati. As far as I know, I could get in my car and drive a half hour and meet Geraldo Rivera. So what does it say about Ohio that we had both of those two characters in Ohio?
That's right. Geraldo is in Shaker Heights, I
Yep.
believe. Yeah. You know who else is in Shaker Heights? Misney, the guy who's on all those billboard signs.
Oh, yeah.
Make them
Tim,
pay.
Tim Misney.
Tim
Tim
Misney.
Misney.
He's in Shaker also. But whatever
Well,
you
what
do,
great
don't walk on his
advertising. Look
grass.
at that. What great advertising, really. I mean, the guy doesn't pay for any advertising, and we mention his name and his billboard. So kudos to him, really.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't
good
fool
eyebrow
around with him. And
raise.
if I ever needed a favor, he'd be the guy I'd go for. If I could afford it and everything. But here, Tim Ryan. Okay, I want to ask you guys. Tim Ryan's supposed to throw his name into running for governor. Okay, this is why I got on the whole thing with Springer, because I was doing a little bit of research and I found out Springer, of all people, this is the last time the Democrats had a primary. And he was in it. And so now we're looking at another primary coming up where it will be Ryan against Amy Acton. All right? Now, it's not official yet, but that's the way it's looking. Tim Ryan spent 20 years in Congress. And then he tried to run in 2020 for president. It seems like everybody's trying to run for president. You know, you got a laundry list like this of people that recently have run for president. And then he tried to run for Senate, but J.D. Vance beat him out. Okay, he's a big-time lobbyist right now. So he's got to decide whether he wants to throw that lobbyism away for the time being and run for governor. But let me ask you this. The Democratic Party has, for the last 10 months, and I got to use air quotes here also in saying the Democrat Party, because I really don't know of any lawmakers, current lawmakers, who have endorsed Amy Acton. I don't know of any of them. Okay, so she has some endorsements, but these are people that are all retired or moved on or, whatever. So the Democratic Party is really not behind her, but she's been on this campaign trail for 10 months now, and she's a woman. And you know how the Democrats are like, we got to have the first woman. We have to have the first woman governor. We have to have her, no matter what. And so there could be a lot of feminists that get angry with this whole thing if Tim Ryan jumps on board. And the other thing, which would be interesting, Shelby, it'd be interesting if we did have a primary, because these two would be battling each other, spending money. They'd be criticizing each other. I'm talking about Amy Acton and Tim Ryan going at each other's throats. Of course, Tim would ultimately win, but it would probably do a lot of damage to him. And that would be good, I think. I think that would be good.
Well, what has Tim Ryan done? What's his resume? You said he was in Congress, and
Yeah, he was in
is there
Congress. for
anything
20 years.
that he has done that's notable? I just don't know.
Is that a trick question? I don't know.
Just a
I don't
question.
know if he has.
I mean, did he solve the cure for something, or did he
Well, he kept the seat
close
warm.
our borders?
He kept the seat
Did he
warm
close
for
our
20
borders?
years.
What is? He ran for Ohio too. Something else in Ohio. Remember that name? Was he any a state official in Ohio? So I guess I don't know anything about Tim Ryan. So maybe I shouldn't say anything. But if he's willing to tell us what he's done, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, it's top
Same
secret.
thing with Amy Acton. I'd love to hear what Amy Acton has done. Like,
Yeah,
Closed down Ohio and ruined businesses.
Ruined
closed
Ohio.
Jobs. Yeah, ruined Ohio. Hey, so it's noteworthy that according to what we're hearing, and this all comes through Joe Miller, because Joe, actually, you're my only conduit so far for that rumor mill about whatever may be happening with Tim Ryan. But supposedly, according to what I heard you say, his running mate would be Allison Russo. So Allison Russo made a big name on our side of the aisle by attacking homeschooling a couple of years ago and homeschoolers. She quietly put that away when we fought back. But recently, she's now on X over the last few days posting about wanting some sort of grace period after the election day, some extra days after the election where if mail ballots show up, that they would count after election day. She's calling it a grace period. So you may want to find her on X, or actually, better yet, find Marcel Sturbich, who's running for Secretary of State, and read his comments in response to Allison Russo.
Okay. Well, I got something here exactly on what you're talking about here. Senate Bill 293, if you guys are aware of that. Senate Bill 293. And this is to eliminate the grace period that you're talking about. So if you do early voting, that ballot has to be in the hands of the people at the Board of Elections on the day of the election. Cannot come in even a day late. Okay? So it's not going by when you postmarked it. It would be when they receive it. And, of course, and it's already passed the Senate, by the way. The Senate passed it like that. They said, this is good stuff. Let's get it through. Now it's sitting in the House, the Ohio House. It's Senate Bill 293. Okay, and the Republicans love it. The Democrats hate it. But we've got to do something. There's no need for ballots to be coming in 4 days later on an election. Just get the thing in the mail a few days before the election, and hopefully the post office will get it there in time. You know, I know you're relying on the post office, and they're saying, well, you can't trust the post office. Well, then don't mail it. If you can't trust the post office, go in person, color in that little circle, and vote. And show ID, too, because there's another issue here, too, guys, that I wanted to get to. It's called the voter ID. Ron Ferguson. You guys know Ron Ferguson, right?
Yep.
All right, he's introducing House Bill 577. And what that does is it requires photo ID, a photo identification for absentee voters.
Good.
That's the way to go, too. So now, if that becomes law, that's got some hurdles to go over. I think it's still in committee. But if that were to become law, then you just, because with absentee voting, you don't have to show ID. And how crazy is that, right?
Right.
How crazy is that? How can you say you
yeah.
got the gold standard when you don't even show an ID for 30-40% of the votes that come in?
Yeah, on Friday I was down in Cincinnati, and I heard Marcel Sturbich speak to the center-right Southwest coalition group in Cincinnati, and he was talking about again, cleaning up the voter rolls, but also when you register to vote, you must prove at that time that you are a citizen, rather than getting your name on the voter rolls and then allowing or asking the Secretary of State or the Board of Elections to prove that you are a citizen after you're already on. I like the idea of you got to prove that you're a citizen before you're even enrolled to vote. And we do need some new blood down at the State House, and I really would support Marcel Sturbich for Secretary of State.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Who's for digital ID? Oh, yeah, I got to tell you, if you're in the chat, please chat. We want to get you involved in the conversation tonight. Digital ID.
Does that mean a chip in my hand that can identify me anywhere? I'm totally
one
against that.
futuristic possibility.
I'm against the digital ID. I just don't like it. What we're doing is we're marching down a path where our freedom and liberties are just going to be usurped, completely taken away from us with this whole digital ID.
Yep.
And if you don't conform to whoever's in power or whatever they're thinking, you just won't exist in your society.
All right. No, I got you. Yeah, I'm not big on digital ID either. I guess I don't completely understand it yet. And if you guys do, let me know. But I don't really completely understand it yet. But I do like the idea of what Ferguson was saying with House Bill 577. Let's show some photo ID when you are doing early voting. So you might say, well, how do you show proof of your driver's license? You're not going to mail the driver's license in with your ballot. So what he's saying is, I guess they got to work out the kinks on that. One way would be for you to take a photocopy of it and send the photocopy in. But of course, the Democrats are screaming because it's like, you can't do that. Do you realize how hard it's going to be to cheat if you do something like that? You can't do that to us, please.
Yeah, they don't want that. Joe, I'm just going to interject really quickly that it took me a minute to find it. I'm in so many different Facebook groups. I stumbled onto something called Digital Defiance. It's a group with over 111,000 people in it.
Wow.
You may want to find that. That's a group, whoever it is that posted that question about opposing digital ID or asking whether or not we're for it. I am absolutely rock solid 100% against it. I am opposing it with everything I've got. It connects with centralized banking, digital currency, and all that stuff. I'm opposing it, but go find this group. It's called Digital Defiance. Excuse me. So far, I joined it a couple of weeks ago, and I like the posts. They talk a lot about what's happening in that realm of digital ID.
All right, there's another. That's very good. Glad you found that. I got to check into that too. Here's something else that has to do with election integrity. House Bill 586. This was put out by Beth Lear and Adam Byrd. House Bill 586. So they introduced it, and what it is no longer sending out for the absentee ballots a request to receive an absentee ballot, okay, which is what Ohio does right now. And there's they sent out 8 million of them. That's a lot of postage. And they send it to all the voters saying, hey, don't forget, if you want to vote by mail, send us a request so we can send you a ballot. So this legislation would say, nah, you don't do that anymore. You don't do that anymore. And I'd like to know what Stribich thinks about that. But I think it's a great idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. I know that, see, Lear is saying that it's needed because the state of Ohio can't afford to spend the money on sending out all these absentee ballot request letters. And I know that Frank LaRose says that people appreciate the convenience of getting the form in the mail with a self-addressed envelope. So, there you go. I mean, it's just you got to mail it to everybody, and then they're getting it with a self-addressed stamped, I don't know if it's stamped, but a self-addressed envelope. And that's, again, to me, that's ripe for cheating. This is how all the cheating takes place. It really does take place with absentee voting. This is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, that between that and our voter rolls that have an estimated 1.3 million bad or questionable entries in them, we've been calling this out for years. And it goes back to the comment that I made earlier. I have a tough time calling these people Republican who can look right in the face of these threat vectors like mail-in ballots. He can look in the cameras, and Frank LaRose can say the words gold standard elections and then advocate for exactly the opposite, exactly the polar opposite of what would work towards securing our elections. This whole notion of just showering the universe with mail-in ballots. We see what happens with it. And I actually I follow people in Washington and Oregon, California. Mail-in ballots are causing absolute mayhem. There are many countries that just banned their use. We're out there suggesting that these people advocating for just sending them out like replacement window postcards and just filling everybody's mailbox with the darn things is somehow secure. It's just ludicrous to me. It's infuriating.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me get Shelby. Shelby, let me get your thoughts on that if you have any. And that little red area behind you, that county, that must be where you're from, huh?
That's the district. It's a District 20, so it's Licking, Fairfield, and most of Perry County.
Right, gotcha. So, did you have any thoughts on this whole thing about sending out ballot requests? Do you think it's a good idea or not?
No, I mean you should be the one. The voter should be the one initiating the request. again, we're making it. There's convenience, but then there's just being lazy with your civic duties. If we operated for decades when people knew that they were going to not be around for an election, that they would request their absentee ballots, and we just need to go back to that. As has been stated, it's just a invitation for fraud when you're wholesale sending out these mail-in ballots, or even initiating the request or from the Secretary of State. I think it's a bad idea, and that they should go back to, again, where people should be the ones initiating the request on their own.
Because isn't the mail-in ballot, isn't that supposed to be for people that for some really grave reason cannot get to the polling location, right? Isn't that what it was supposed to be? It was like everybody's supposed to go day of election, but, if you got some kind of a problem, you can't make it there, you could use mail-in ballots. But that isn't really the case when the state is sending out an invite to 8 million people, 8 million voters, saying, oh, by the way, if you want to vote early, just ask us and we'll send you a ballot. Now, one other thing on this, Frank LaRose was saying that it would put too much of a strain on the election officials if they don't have early voting. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that does not make sense because early voting has not been around that long.
That's backward. We're spending more money on that stuff. Just look at the spend, and there are people out there, and I don't know, maybe just because of where I sit, but I do think it's pretty universally known now that in many instances, the more we spend, the less secure, the less successful things get. And the prime example that comes to mind for me are schools. We're talking about it often now. And by we, I mean far beyond just Ohio Political News, Brian Massey and me. A lot of people are talking about it now. We have school districts in Ohio that have spent over $30,000 per pupil, and we're down now sometimes into the single digit or maybe teens for academic proficiency. In the same way, you can look at the spend rate in elections. And we used to spend a fraction of what we now spend and get it done faster with fewer people with more accuracy. So it seems like somehow we have like 10 times the budget, and we have all these sophisticated, super hyper advanced computers that for some ridiculous reason run security protocols from 2005. And somehow that takes a few extra days, it takes longer with more people at vastly more cost. And now Frank LaRose it's a non-argument. He can't get up in front of the camera and say that going back to what we used to do would somehow add expense, because we've already added the expense to get where we are from where we used to be.
Yeah, the expense for mailing out all these ballot requests right there. If you're mailing out 8 million of them, that's got to be cost quite a bit of money right there.
I would recommend that we contact Marcel Strivich to get some of the answers, what he's thinking about. I saw a question about how many mail-in ballots are really being used, but I'd like to hear from Marcel, from his perspective, what are we doing and what would he suggest that we do to get these free and fair elections that we're not spending an arm and a leg for. I agree with Shelby. There's a civic a duty, for citizens to get out and vote, and not just wait for us to, send you the ballot, and you just check it off.
I got you. Well, I know that
there's just real quick. Speaking for Fairfield County, and again, this is a percentage of a percentage. I saw the question pop up about what the percentage of the mail-in ballots were. In this last election, you only had 20% of the registered voters come out and vote. So that you've got to take that into consideration. Specifically, 19.68% in Fairfield County. Of that, almost 4% were mail-in ballots.
Really? Wait.
Yes.
So then you're saying that like 15% voted on election day and 4%
Yes.
voted early, and that's where you get your 19. You had a whopping
Yep.
19% of the people. That's just so. That's another thing too. Why are we having all these elections? We should have a general election and a midterm, and that's it. Nothing else. No August elections. None of this. None of these off years. Because nobody goes to the ballot. Nobody goes to
I do have
vote.
something to tell Shelby. He mentioned Fairfield and Licking. Shelby, I'll let you know, Fairfield County is one of the leading counties in collecting signatures for a petition to abolish property taxes. So we've got some great circulators in that area, and we've got some people, citizens that are really upset about the property taxes in Licking and Fairfield County.
Ah,
Yeah,
excellent.
no, it is good. We are active, but again, it's. I know some of those groups. You have Licking County conservatives, you have Central Ohio conservatives that are, and Fairfield County conservatives that are really doing the heavy lifting, and a lot of the people that are associated with gaining those signatures have come to some of those meetings. So we just need to get the word out about that. But again, as we've seen, you still have 80% of the people that are not engaging.
You talking about what, the elections?
Yes, in the elections. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. You had 81% that did not engage in it at all. And who's paying for these mail-in ballots?
We are the taxpayers.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
You.
that's right.
You're paying for it. The government pays for nothing. It kills me when people say, well, the government will take care of it, or the government's giving me this or that. No, the government doesn't have any. It comes only from us. They take all this money, throw it in a big. What the politicians do, or the lawmakers actually, the lawmakers do, and all politicians, it's like, let's divvy it out. This money's coming in. I want some to go here. I want some to go there. I want some to go in my back pocket. Things like that. And a lot of it ends up in the back pocket, which
Well,
is why they
especially
love
when
to
we-
be a politician.
Especially when we send money to federal, who gives it to state, who gives it to local, who gives it to a township or jurisdiction. So we have money is lost at each step of the way. So I've actually mentioned that in the context of schools. So going back to that school example of a school district that's spending, let's say, $32,000. They spend $32,000 in any given year per pupil. It's not $32,000 because you have to add off-balance sheet stuff like educational service centers who spend more money. They just don't report it on the same sheet. And some of that money goes to federal that then comes back to the state, and the state gives that local school district money. Well, each of them keeps some of the money. So it's not dollar for dollar. Money's lost at each step of the way. Somebody actually just posted up a moment ago about showing ID when you go to request a voter registration. That's true sometimes. It's not universally true. So honest people will go and show up at a registration facility and show their ID and get a voter registration. But there are places out there like Black Fork. Black Fork is a company that goes out there and just basically puts people on a street corner. It's not that bad, I'm exaggerating, but they just send people around with voter registration forms and submit fat stacks of them. And we already know there's I can't call it a pending case because nobody in Ohio picked up the case, but there are standing allegations that they were harvesting those and just filling them out. There was one person, and they put the same signature, I think, if I remember correctly, on hundreds of ballots. Excuse me, not ballots, but voter registrations. So the system is gamed ridiculously a long time ago. So while some people may say, I had the experience of going into a voter registration facility and I showed ID, sure, that's one way. But for every person who does, there are other people out there who can simply fill in a form, mail it in, and get back a registration that'll then allows them to vote. And the fact that Ohio weakened it and softened that registration process to now, I believe you only need the last 4 digits of a social security number and a stamp. You can just mail in, I'm Fred Smith. The last four of my social is 4567. And in many instances, and I'm not aware of anybody successfully fighting back and shutting off that spigot. So that's how we've gotten, I believe, to the 1.3 million-ish bad or questionable entries on our voter rolls. And there are people, let's be aware of the vectors of attack from the left. There are people in Ohio who would like to do things like was done in Illinois, Michigan, New York, and that's talk of automatically registering people the moment they walk into a BMV, walk into the Bureau of Motor Vehicles and say, hey, I don't speak any English, but I just got here and I bought a car. They'll hand you a card and automatically enroll you. That's what's being discussed and argued over in places like Pennsylvania right now. It's ridiculous. The gateway to getting a voter registration is virtually non-existent. It's so lax that it's a laughable joke. So yes, to the person who posted that, you may have an experience that makes you feel like voter registration is secure, but it's anything but.
Yeah, there's a lot of holes in it, and some of the bills, like we just covered real quick. So the Beth Lear bill that would get rid of giving out these announcements to, hey, a reminder, vote early. So that's one bill. And the other one was get rid of the grace period, which is 4 days after the election. So any ballots that come in after the election are not counted anymore. You just toss them away. And the third one was voter ID. If you're going to do early voting, absentee voting, then you have to have an ID, a picture of an ID. Can donations be funding towards mail-in ballots besides taxpayers? Can donations be funding the mail-in ballots? I guess so. I mean, yeah, you could give. I think if anybody could, they could take donations for it, but they got to have a lot of money. They got to have a lot of money to mail out all of that stuff. All right, listen. I want to switch over to SNAP because we're just talking about all of the problems with the federal government and state government and the waste. Okay. So Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, she said that everybody who's registered for SNAP should reapply, and I think they're going to make it mandatory that they all reapply because of all the ongoing fraud discoveries with SNAP. And it's amazing. For instance, the USDA has discovered that there are 200,000 dead people receiving it in 29 states. All right, 200,000 dead people are getting SNAP. And if you're dead, you really don't need that food. Come on. So, but what about the other 21 states? The other 21 states are predominantly blue states, and they are suing the Agriculture Secretary, saying that they're not going to give that information over. So the red states that are fairly honest, they got 200,000 dead people. The blue states said, we're not even going to tell you. You got 500,000 people that have registered twice on SNAP that they know of. You got 42 million people total in the U.S. on SNAP. The average recipient, $177 per month. So if you got 5 people in your household, that's $885. All right. They also said that 80% of the people using the program are able to work. 80% are able to work. They said it's the most corrupt, dysfunctional program in U.S. history. And that's saying a lot. If it is the most corrupt. Amazing, huh?
I thought that was USAID was the most corrupt. So
it's right up there.
the
USAID,
SNAP even. Oh my God.
Yeah, the SNAP
they're
might
saying
be even
SNAP
worse.
is worse. Now, they said the Democrat Party has built its entire strategy around protecting illegal aliens. And they know that if the handouts stop, those illegals will have to go home. You see, that's what we're talking about with a lot of those red states or those blue states. They're not letting you know the information because they know that there's fraud up to here and with SNAP. and they don't want you to know about it. But you know what? 80%, and that's their calculation. It's probably a little conservative. 80% can work. I don't know. That's crazy with the SNAP. Let's go around the horn real quick. Any thoughts on SNAP?
Yeah, if you can work, and there's a need, for services, everybody's got a help wanted sign, and if you can work, I don't think you should be getting the SNAP benefits. And why is this even an argument if we've got fraud, waste, and abuse in the system? It just sort of galls me that be they Democrats or Republicans, is there any honesty, integrity, in our society? I guess not. It's everybody can cheat as much as they can as long as they don't get caught. But even if they get caught, what happens to them? Nothing happens at the federal level with politicians that lie, cheat, and steal. So what does it matter? I guess that's what our society.
Nothing happens to you. Nothing happens to you. Okay. Any thoughts on SNAP?
Newsflash. We have something called social media, and all over social media, you have a lot of people who are admitting guilt, and they have been for a long time. So it's no longer a question of whether or not this is true. And the left can't argue that the waste, fraud, and abuse isn't taking place, because you get all these people, just like all the people that said, hey, look at what I stole from the grocery store, and pulled out stuff in front of the camera and talked about the value of those. The internet is forever. You have people for a long time who have been all over social media and making these TikTok videos. Hey, look at me driving up in my fancy car with my nails done, and I just got my hair done, and I'm going to spend my $3,800 at the grocery store from SNAP. These are able-bodied people, many of whom it should be fairly easy to track down. So I don't think there's any argument anymore that it's just horrendous waste, fraud, and abuse. And I'm all for making people reapply and then actually have some standards, not just catering to the illegal immigrants and trying to vote pander, because that's forcing us to pay for free stuff for people so that they can vote in communism. None of that is okay with Americans.
Right, I got you right there. Let me ask Shelby real quick. Shelby, any thoughts on SNAP?
Yeah, I mean, you should have some means testing. Again, as has been said, there's waste, fraud, and abuse at all the levels. Eliminate it completely. I don't think you can do that just off the bat. But you really need to drill it back down into having as much local control, state and local control as you can. It shouldn't have. Don't be relying on a federal government for any level of this, and this should be handled at the local and the state level. And you need to have truly philanthropic entities like churches step up and start taking the lion's share of this responsibility onto their backs of helping people that truly are in need.
Yeah, you better believe it. Yeah, I think that's the job of the churches too, more so than the government, because government it's the largest waste, fraud, and abuse line item, they're saying. So yeah, that's the job of the churches right there. Food pantries and things like that. It's not the government. And when you put all this money into the government, it's going to get filtered here or there. Look at USAID, how crazy that is. It's sickening. And here's the other thing. We got a $38 trillion debt, and most of it is through Medicaid and SNAP programs. Something has to be done. You cannot continue with $38 trillion in debt. Can the blue states be compelled to comply with the data request and the requiring for re-enrollment? They have to comply with the re-enrollment. They would have to comply with that. And they're supposed to comply with any data that is requested. They're supposed to comply with it. But they're suing the federal government. All 21 states are suing the federal government saying, we're not going to give you this information. So we'll see where that goes.
And again, just one real quick, Joe, is that just from observation standpoint of people that I know, this is a problem that that exists across different party lines too. This isn't just quote unquote leftists or Democrats that are abusing the system. I know people that are staunch conservatives on the surface, but that they accept these benefits and that they're more than capable of working and providing for themselves. But they have the attitude of just saying, well, if it's there, I'm going to take advantage of it. Other people are doing it, I'm going to do it too. So it's a problem across the board.
Yeah, it's not just Democrats. I got you. It's not just Democrats, but we got to clean up the mess up. Boy, we have got to clean that up big time. I want to look at a couple of levies, the school levies and all that kind of stuff, because we had record numbers of them passing. And we talk religiously on this program about how you've got to stop these levies. You got to stop voting for the levies. Please, please. And nobody's listening. I'm a little disappointed. They must not be watching this program. And they're all just, every levy is passing. Let me give you some examples here. 18 of the 20 library levies passed. 18 out of 20. The librarians, that's the first time they were doing cartwheels. Okay? They loved it. You got 43 out of 47 parks and recreation levies passed. Okay. The Public Children's Service Association of Ohio, 7 counties were seeking renewal levies. All 7 of them got it. As a matter of fact, speaking of renewal levies, 92% of them passed. 92%. And I got a kick out of this. A school board, the OSBA, so I'm assuming that's the Ohio School Board Association.
Mm-hmm.
CEO Tom Hosler. Tom Hosler. He said in his statement that every question, well, first of all, he said a school board doesn't place a levy on the ballot lightly. They don't do it lightly. If they're going to put a levy on, they really think about it a long time, the schools. And then he said each question represents months of discussions about how to meet the student needs. And we know that's a bunch of BS, because how much of the money even goes to the students? Virtually nothing. And then he said, because I thought maybe he was joking, but apparently he's not. He says, we also are respecting the community's ability to pay. So they take that into consideration. When they put a new levy on the ballot, they put that into consideration whether or not you can afford it.
And we're supposed to believe that, right, Joe?
What's coming from Tom Hosler, the CEO?
Joe, do you realize that, believe it or not, there are some people that go to the ballot box, vote for a levy, but do not correlate that vote for that levy as an increase in their property taxes?
Right.
Do you understand the significance of that, Joe?
I think that's most
we don't
people.
know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing as citizens. And they're funding their own demise if they continue to vote for these levies. Libraries. How many libraries do you need, in a county? And should I pay for a library if I don't use it? Well, if you believe that we are a socialist society and we want to have the collective, then you just keep on going. Representative Dan Troy, he said that public school funding is the purest form of socialism, redistribution of wealth.
Yeah.
So we are socialists. So let's just embrace that socialism. And when the communism comes, the only difference is between socialism and communism is the size of the gun.
Yep.
So this is serious stuff. I know it sounds like I'm making
Very
a joke here,
serious.
but this is serious stuff. That what we are doing we are consigning future generations to the 250-year experiment of the United States is about over, and I'm just wondering which country are we going to emulate? Are we going to emulate China? I would assume people don't want to go with North Korea, but maybe they'll accept the China mode where, they can tell you what job you're going to work in and how much you're going to get paid, and you're merely just a serf. Right now, we don't really own our homes. We're merely renters from the government. And until people wake up to that fact, we are, as a state, we are a socialist state. And I can tell you that we sent that survey out to all of the senators and to the representatives. Only one representative had the backbone to say that he is not going to support the abolishment of property tax. That's Rodney Creech. Now, Rodney is obviously calling himself a socialist because he doesn't believe in private property. So I appreciate that, Rodney, that you've told your constituents that you're a socialist. The only two legislators that have signed a petition is Jennifer Gross and Tex Fisher out of the Mahoning County area. The rest, including our friends Dave Thomas and Ashtabula, have not signed a petition. So we really have become a socialist state, and I think we're going to have to embrace that because the legislators are more worried about their donor class as opposed to their constituents.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's crazy because people don't understand. They don't put two and two together. They don't realize that if you vote for another levy, your property taxes are going to go up. They don't quite catch the correlation. Maybe because a lot of them, if they have a mortgage, it's hidden. It's hidden with the paperwork. They have a payment and they don't realize that X amount is going for their property tax.
That's a key point, Joe. That's why it's presented the way that it is. I spoke somewhere at a GOP meeting recently, and this is a Donald Trump fake $100 bill, which is pretty awesome. The Don Father. This is pretty fun. So imagine, I pulled up on Ohio Department of Education Wycliffe again to use them as an example. Wycliffe Community, in their most recent reported year, spent $38.5 million in a year. In 1 year, Wycliffe spent $38.5 million. That amounted to $30,476 per pupil for roughly 50% academic proficiency. But that's another topic. Just talking about the amount of money that goes in. Imagine two different scenarios. One, the citizens of Wycliffe are all asked to write a check or hand over a stack of money amounting to their portion of $38 million. It's painful. They would be taking this big fat stack of $100 bills and sliding it across the table to their local school district, and that hurts. And they would be paying close attention to what they get in return for that. Counter that, or contrast that with what's done. You go to the ballot box and fill in this thing that says, if you agree with the school district and an outside millage of an extended rate of 0.2000, it will be added to accrued methodology, and they just throw in this crazy terminology, and Brian can speak to this, the outside millage, the inside millage. Are people that work in finance to have a hard time understanding it. It's the equivalent. I don't have my phone with me. I left it in the other room. But imagine the equivalent. It's psychologically, it's the difference between handing a money, actual money over, and taking your smartphone with a chip in it and just tapping it. It's just sort of, that seems so easy. I'm tapping. It doesn't feel like money. We have to do a better job, and it relates back to this very topic, and that's financial literacy. It's not taught, and many adults out there aren't able to correlate the pain that they feel when their property taxes go up with the fact that the vote creates that increased and that high property tax. And over the last 70 years, it what led us to the point where school districts like Wycliffe feel that they can get away with charging $38 million for 50% squishy, soft academic proficiency, because it's been hidden from us for so long. That's a big reason behind the push for getting us on the ballot and voting to abolish property taxes. And actually, I'll take Brian's comment one step further. Rodney Creech and people like him aren't expressing the fact that they're socialist because they're against abolishing property taxes. That's not even happening. That's not even on the table yet. They are saying they don't believe in the citizens' right to vote on an issue, which is way worse than socialism. That is just stomping on the rights of the American people and Ohioans. We have every right to vote on anything we darn well please. And him making an effort to stand in the way of that is beyond socialism. The same thing can be said of that video that you played. Who was it? Jerry Serino. Jerry Serino making the step to try and tell people, don't let it get to the ballot. Don't let Ohioans vote on it. That's wrong. It's completely wrong.
You know,
100% agree.
That's a good point, because
agree.
Brian, all you're asking is to get this on the ballot. You're not telling them. I don't even know what you said. Did you say that they have to support it, or are you just asking them to?
I just asked the survey, will they sign the petition?
Sign the petition.
And it was yes, no, or hell no, I'm with Jerry, or I'm really unsure.
But to sign the petition is just to get it on the ballot. So they could still not agree
correct.
with it. It's just like, okay, let's get it on the ballot and let the people decide, right?
100%. Yeah, Jonathan is 100%, correct with that. So what you also have to realize that a lot of these renewal levies, what they did was they were, quote, renewing, but they were also going to make it continuous. Now, I bet you could ask 100 people, what is a continuous levy? They wouldn't know. I'll bet you high 80% would not know what a continuous levy means. It means forever. That the taxing authority does not have to come back.
That should not be
does
right.
not have to come back and ask for this money to be renewed. It just keeps on going in perpetuity, and that's wrong.
Oh, that's so horrible. That's horrible. So why don't we do it the other way? So if we say no to a levy, we say no continuously. It's forever. Why is it? Yeah, it's always one-sided. It's one-sided. In Parma, they've had eight tries at this school levy, and it's failed now 8 times in a row. And I get a kick out of people that say, well, it's the public, it's their desire to have the levy. We have to give them the opportunity to say yes or no. You gave them the opportunity 8 times. They said no. But the schools, they're going to try one more time, and if it passes, then it's like they're for forever.
Well, but Joe, there's a basic problem with that, and it's because we've got state legislators that are more concerned about their donor base rather than their constituents. They could easily address that. If a school doesn't, pass a levy, they can't keep doing it, every election cycle, and people are voting on emotions. What we're finding is people say, well, I can't sign the petition because you've got to vote for these schools because you've got to do it for the children. When we say, do you understand or you know about the proficiency scores? Do you know that Cleveland schools, that 2/3 of the children are functionally illiterate? Do you know that? Well, no, I didn't know that, but you still have to do it for the children. There is no rationale when I try to explain the housing affordability threshold, those 3 factors. People are challenged with math, so it is frustrating.
Yeah, I love that challenge with math. All right, we got to get our guest on because we do want to talk about smart meters tonight. And we got John Mara, mayor of Timberlake. How are you?
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Very good to see you tonight. And so we got to talk about smart meters here. So smart meters are digital electronic meters that replace traditional analog meters. They record electricity usage in real time every 15 minutes and transmit the data securely to utility companies in wireless communication, enabling two-way interaction between the meter and the utility. The technology is part of a broader smart grid initiative which integrates digital tools to enhance the efficiency, reliability, and management of the electric grid. That's what Grok has to say about it. I want to hear what you have to say about it. So, first of all, thanks for hopping in. What's up with the smart meters? Can you fill us in?
Sure, I've been doing a lot of research on it. Matter of fact, last week I went on a mayors and managers of Northeast Ohio. First Energy happened to have a presentation on smart meters, and they basically were, long story short, they try to tell us that they're not really that smart, that they're only they only measure the information of your electrical usage and will report that back. And again, when there's an outage, it doesn't record it continuously. It just sends a ping to or they can ping the smart meter and find out if it's out or not. Well, as we know, I mean, these smart meters are very, very, very smart. Matter of fact, they can tell what people are in what rooms, using what utilities, how much each utility is using, the exact amount, of energy it's consuming for each time. So anyway, so there's a lot in here, but also I've been going through, because what they're pushing now in House Bill 427 is demand response. That's the biggest thing. And these demand response programs are where they basically take control. You can either have a smart thermostat installed. They tried doing that. And then also they'll have these other devices where the demand response, they'll put these devices on. It's actually a receiver and a transmitter. The transmitter and receiver go on your compressor for your heat pump or your air conditioner or your electronic water heater. And what it'll do is it'll cycle them over. Well, on the air conditioner, it'll cycle every 30 minutes. It'll cut it 20 minutes. Or 10 minutes every 30 minutes. So it'll run 20 minutes, cut it off 10 minutes, but your fan will still kick on. They say you really won't feel any comfort difference. Even though it's no longer drawing humidity, no longer producing cold air, the humidity rises in the room. And again, on those hot summer days, it's not going to catch up. But now, those are if you opt into those programs. But now, there's a clip there you can play from that one meter where the one representative said that, or the one gentleman from AEP, he basically said that these responses, they only had like 600 some people that participated out of 20,000. And pretty much it cost them like $2 million for this pilot program. So what I'm saying is people aren't opting into it. So what they're going to do now is, there's a big thing now, as you know, with this power on our energy grid. They're allowing these data centers in. Problem with that is that now they're going to take our base load. And they're doing these demand responses to protect our reserve capacity. So when that reserve starts diminishing, what they end up doing is they'll take and they'll shut off certain people's thermostats or compressors, and they'll increase that so that they'll have that reserve. Well, that's only to protect it, but it doesn't add anything to the base load. So what ends up happening is then they end up having to basically, they're only protecting the base load, so they're still producing the electricity. It's still being used or being produced, but it's not being used. It's only being protected so they don't run into that reserve, so they don't have a blackout. Well, as they allow these data centers in, that reserve is going to be less and less, which means they're going to have to regulate the power more during these demand times. So what they're going to end up doing is, because they don't have enough people opting in, they're going to use these smart meters to basically regulate and basically brown out people's homes selectively. Now, the thing is, we could basically opt out, and that's another thing in the presentation. They says, well, you can opt out, but it costs $28 a month for them to come read your meter. And then if they already install the meter, you can basically have it removed, but that's $42 removed, and then another $28 a month for the meter. So, or to read the meter. So I asked the question, I go, well, why are we being penalized, for that? And then they said, well, I said, why don't you, for $28 a month, I'll call in my meter reading. Just like we used to in the past. I remember in the old days, if they didn't come and read your meter, you can call it in and they'll basically send you the bill. Well, again, it's not about that, obviously. It's to penalize us and extort that money out of us. And again, most, because I told them, most people in my community, they're on fixed incomes, they're Social Security, they can't afford that extra $28 a month. So anyway, then they're trying to tell us, like I said, so what they're going to do is they're going to selectively, now the residences can opt out, but businesses cannot opt out of those smart meters. So that's another thing. So if you've got a business and you've got all these, equipment running, heavy equipment running all and using all this power, and AI is going to basically decide, you know what, I need power. So they're going to shut that manufacturing company down, turn that smart meter so that they can basically protect that base load. And people say, well, who's going to do this? Well, it's going to be AI doing it, these data centers, which is AI self-preservation, because it's going to have an algorithm that's going to say wherever you can get demand load and protect it, that's what it'll do, and it'll just take it wherever it can. And unless you opt in to maybe, oh, I'm on a heart monitor, I'm on oxygen, so you can't shut my power off. Unless you opt in, it's not going to know. And again, we're talking about AI who has no conscience, no soul, no nothing.
That's a good point. So AI would be like regulating it and saying,
Oh,
hey, you're
sure.
using too much, you're using too much, or this group's using too much, or whatever. But if you don't pay the $28 or $30 or whatever it is per month, then you're not on the grid, right? So they couldn't shut you down then, or could they?
If you don't pay the 20, it's like if you don't pay your bill. I mean, like anything else, if you don't
No,
pay
but if I do pay the $30 a month, am I off the grid?
Oh, no, you don't have a smart meter. What they'll do is they'll put an electronic meter on. It won't have the dial. It'll be just an electronic meter, which doesn't have the 5G, two-way communication, and all the other modern technology in it. All it does is it's like a digital meter that just reads the amount of electricity passing through it. I've got one. They put one on mine when I upgraded my system, my electrical wiring in my house. I upgraded about 7 years ago, and they took off the dial, put the electronic one. But again, that doesn't emit RF or electromagnetic frequencies like the smart meters do. The smart meters definitely give off electromagnetic frequencies. They've got these monitors here that you can get. Basically, won't focus in. There we go. So anyway, it's the EMF 390 meter, and it measures RF, electromagnetic frequencies, radio frequencies, and so forth. And I'll go around to those smart meters, and it's off the charts. I mean, they'll be in the hundreds of megawatt frequencies in that range. So, these are high limits. Also, our routers in our home, they also give off radio frequencies that are at high lows. And again, some people are not sensitive to it, but some people are. And we've noticed that, some people have their extreme headaches they can get from it, nausea, sleep disorders, so forth. So again, some people will be sensitive, some people not. But these are, they're different. Like I said, the smart meters is different. It looks like a little camera at the lower right-hand corner if you look at it. And that's how you can distinguish. But those are two-way communication. And again, they're very, very, very intelligent. They're like basically it's like an iPhone inside the meter. It's no different.
So
just like
so the privacy problems then are, would this thing can tell you what room you're in or if your refrigerator is running? That used to be an old joke. You used to call somebody and say, hey, is your refrigerator running? If it is, you better go catch it. I remember doing that as a kid. But they can tell what appliances are being used, and then it'll be set up to AI, and then AI will determine hey, if too much consumption, they're gonna turn you off or your whole street off, or
there's a little. I've looked at videos about the internals of them. I like to see what makes it work, and what they have in there is a little motor, and basically the motor with a little gear it's a relay. And it'll just open up that relay and just cut the power off. So pretty much, and then once it's off, it's off. I mean, there's a relay in there, and that's how they'll shut it off, pretty much how they can control it. And
so you think that this, cutting right to the chase then, John, this is a way to control the population, you think? Is that?
We hear all these conspiracy theories about everything, but, how many coincidences can there be, and how many conspiracy theories, can come true, and we're not going to start believing any of them anymore. I mean, Yeah, yeah, it's another conspiracy theory, but then again, it can be controlled. And the other thing is, it can be hacked into. Anything tied into the internet, as we know, can be hacked into. So, that's another fear. I mean, who knows who can control it? It can be shut off by anyone, anytime, anywhere. We don't know, so we have no really any control of it.
Yeah, gonna go around the horn here.
The other
Jonathan,
thing is,
any thoughts on that? And smart meters?
Yeah, I've got several thoughts. The first thing is everyone should know the following words: surveillance, monitoring, analysis, reporting, technology. That's what SMART stands for. Surveillance, monitoring, analysis, reporting, technology. A few things. The first is from a privacy and security standpoint. There are many people out there, and I'm one of them, that pays for a security monitoring service. And I think it was a movie that was made, or probably several movies by now, of crooks who got a bad guy inside of the security monitoring service for your home and figured out when people were traveling and broke into homes because they knew that the homes were vacant. People go on vacation or whatever. If you follow that idea, that if you use whatever ADP or whatever home security service, they know when you're not home and when your home is most vulnerable. I'm not suggesting ADP is a bad company, by the way. I'm using them as an example. If you give your utilities access to that same information, I've been arguing since I first learned of this notion of smart meters that that's another way of communicating to the world that your home is vacant and vulnerable and when. Because if they know that no devices are being used or know your typical cycle and it breaks, AI is aware that your home is vacant during certain hours of the day, etc. It makes you vulnerable. That's the argument that I make. The health implications are horrible. Just go talk to somebody that you know that works in healthcare and ask them about any room with any sophisticated equipment, like an MRI imaging machine or X-ray machines, whatever. They are very careful about how much exposure hospital staff have to those things because the health implications are bad for you. The same holds true for smart meters. Smart meters have health implications. Somehow to roll these things out and bolt them onto the side of your house and they're emitting frequencies, and John just held up that EMF meter, and pretend like somehow that's not an issue. I can tell you that 25 years ago, they were doing studies on cell phone towers that were emitting a fraction of this frequency and learned that birds and insects and bees and animals avoid them because they're disruptive and harmful. If this EMF craze, the 5G stuff, is worse. You can hold a meter up next to it. It's more harmful and worse. So on all those fronts, safety and security, being private about your information so that your house and your family's well-being stays secured, should be of tantamount importance to everybody. This whole idea of just sharing your comings and goings and what you're using and when and how much with some sort of utility company, which we already don't trust, is nonsensical to me. I don't want to share any of that information with them. There's also, just read the writing on the wall. In Pennsylvania, I'm told it's pretty much statewide. They were enforced. Pennsylvania went far left, ultra-doodle, woke-a-doodle a long time ago, and they just mandated it. I don't think there are any choices, from what I gather, to even opt out. We need to be putting our foot down now in Ohio to say we're not going to be Pennsylvania, and we want real meters. And I'm with John. I've been asking, and I'm told that I have to pay some extra fee. It's my understanding, and I want some clarification. This is a question to John Mara. That digital meter that was put on your home 7 years ago, if I understand correctly, all that can do is read. It cannot have an impact on your utilities and your consumption of those utilities, right? Because if that's the case, everyone should want that. You don't want to be in some freezing night and somebody decides somewhere that an AI, some facility in Ohio needs more power than you do and put you in a brownout, take power away from you to fund to put power into some other utility. That's ridiculous. So, John, is it true? Is it fair to assume that if we're paying that extra fee, which I plan on fighting, that it can't, that power can't be turned off? And one note to our listening audience out there, my suggestion is find ways of countering with lawsuit. Just tie them up in courts and fight against this stuff. If you have people in your family who have health issues, if you experience sleepless nights or headaches, or you have somebody with a heart issue or heart implant, those kinds of things like pacemakers and all those sorts of things, check with doctors and sue, join class action lawsuits and fight against this stuff, because I think all of it's horrible.
Okay. All right. Well, answer your question. The analog meters, first of all, they have to come out and physically read those. Those are the ones with the dial. So those, they'll come out, they'll physically have to come out and read them. The one like I have, the digital one I have, that does not give out any EMF or RF. What that is just electronic, it just measures the electricity. Those can be read remotely, but you have to be near it. For example, I think they do put out, they have where you can actually, they go there with one of those meter readers, and if they go nearby enough, I believe they can read what that meter has. And again, it doesn't give off any RF like the smart meter. The smart meter, though, the problem with that one is that besides giving off radio frequency, it also gives off a pulse that goes, I heard, through the electrical system of the house. So that'll give off a pulse. Sometimes it'll be every 5 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, just puts this pulse through the house. And that's another thing. What that's for, again, it's to basically monitor everything and all the appliances, and it measures everything and it tracks everything that goes on in the house. And again, you can log into these meters. There's software to log in, and you can track it yourself, and it'll actually go back, and even track the history. So that's, again, they're very, very, very smart. But the one thing, though, as far as turning it off, the old-fashioned ones with the dial, those have to be physically pulled off when you want, if they want to shut your power off. So if they have to come out and physically pull that meter. The electronic one, like I have, I believe what they can do is they can remotely but they have to come out to the house near the street, and they can send a signal to that, because there's still a little motor with a relay inside the electronic ones where they can shut it off, but they have to physically come out. AI can't do that. That can't be done remotely by AI the way the 5G is, where they communicate with each other and they communicate back to basically to First Energy. So there's a difference between them. Again, all of them can be turned off. The old-fashioned ones, the best ones are the dial ones. But if, again, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll replace those with the electronic ones, because, again, they still have to come out to read them, but they use this meter reader where they have to get close enough to read the meter. It'll read it, but, again, it's not. And then in the end, the same thing to shut it off. They'll have to get close enough to shut it off if they have to. It can't be done through AI, and that's the benefit. Even if it's electronic, you say, well, I don't want that either, but it's better than the smart meter. I mean, I'm paying the extra money, and again, I've had no issues. I've tested my electronic meter here. There's no RF. It's got some electromagnetic frequency. That's because of the wires there. There's 220 volts coming through. But other than that, it's got clean RF. So that was the main thing on my electronic meter.
Hey, John, a quick question. You did some testimony on this, correct? And
Yes, I did.
okay, so were you were out? I would assume you were against it, right?
Yeah, I opposed House Bill 427. Basically, that's presented by Representative Kloppenstein. That's for the demand response program. And basically what it is that, our grid is already stressed. And what I told them, I said, our grid is already stressed and fragile. And basically the average residential rate is about 16 cents per kilowatt right now. And they project about a 10 to 15% increase from 25 to 26 because the PJM costs and hikes. And that's going to be about 2 cents on generation. Now, again, they're talking about, half of that is for generation, but the other half is for distribution. So and then when they also tell you about the discount when you pay the rate, and they're going to save on your generation part, but they still charge you for the distribution part, which is set, and they're not discounting that because that's again charged from First Energy on the distribution part. The AEP is the one that provides the generation part, and then again, those we can buy through a third party also. But pretty much, it's putting an additional. American Electric Power puts in estimates about 15 gigawatts of additional load by 2030. That's 5 gigawatts from new and expanding data centers alone, and that's going to basically give us short on our demand response. So what House Bill 427 really does, okay, it authorizes electric utilities to create voluntary demand response programs for residential and small business customers. But this legislation effectively gives utilities legal authority to remotely control air conditioners, water heaters, and other appliances during grid events. The bid aggregated household load reductions into PJM's capacity market for profit, and they collect performance incentives from Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. Customers can override an event, but too many overrides mean being barred from participation. And when participation determines whether family gets $25 or $50 rebate. So basically, they're basically given control of their thermostat for $25 to $50 rebate that they're going to get. It's not even cash; it's a rebate off their bill, which is already inflated to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know.
So there's a lot of these things. Like I said, so my main thing was that these demand response that they're basically doing this and putting these programs, but I said they're not saving base load. And I talked to Rep. Thomas actually on it because he's on the committee there. And I says, Rep. Thomas, I go, look, I says, if you want to really save base load, the best way to do it is how about we upgrade everyone's appliances, their air conditioners, freezers, refrigerators, and air conditioners, let them, the new ones are 50 to 75% more efficient. I go, every kilowatt saved there is a kilowatt added to our base load. But then again, it makes too much sense, because they rather have control, and this is going to give them control of our electricity is through these smart meters, and that's what I'm worried about is AI having control of our homes.
Yeah, somebody a chat question there. They're talking about a generator, which kind of makes sense. It's kind of a way to get around it, but that's only temporary. I mean, you can't have a generator running forever. But if they do shut your electricity off, you got a generator that you could power your house for a while. I guess that's one way to help.
That's true, but it's not economical. The problem is the economics aren't there because you're producing more wattage. I tell people it's like this. I go, with these demand response programs, I go, it's like having a 3,000 watt generator and you plug in your cell phone to charge it. You're running it for 8 hours to charge your cell phone and it's only using 200 watts. The other 2,800 watts is being wasted, even though it's being produced. You're preserving it because, again, you're not using it, but it's still being generated. So that's what these demand response. It doesn't save or add anything to baseload. All it does is it protects their reserve. That's all it really does. So it does nothing. So, and again, people give up their convenience and their thermostats for it.
I get Brian in here. Brian, any questions for John?
Yes, I do. It seems like the state of Ohio wants to be the AI data center capital of the United States. And then I understand we talked about, I think a representative mentioned also they want data centers for Bitcoin mining. And the problem with those data centers is the amount of noise that it gives off. And the amount of water that is used for all of these facilities. So are we, I know you don't have the answer to this, but I just think that we now have Republicans that, want to price us out of our home, the property taxes, and now they want to take our electricity for the AI data centers that they think will be in the state of Ohio's best interest. So please explain that to me, how these legislators are even thinking about the average citizen. It's very obvious to me that these data centers, if we've got I don't know, a dozen, 2 dozen, throughout the state. Is that is that what the people really need to make Ohio number one in something?
Well, if the question is, are the legislators thinking about the average citizens? Absolutely not. They're thinking about themselves and their donor base, because what's happening is, if you look at House Bill 15 that was passed, that basically gives these data centers all these tax incentives and tax breaks. They're getting tax abatements. So they're buying, for example, there's one property that's in Jefferson Township in Fayette County. They the land value went from about $300,000 to about almost $1 million value over the last 10 years. This is just one plot of land, by the way. So Amazon came in last year and purchased it for $60 million. Okay, 60 times the already inflated value. Now, the thing is, they're giving tax abatements, and they're getting a 75% tax abatement on the original set or appraised value, which is that under about $1 million. So and then all the data center they built, they're getting a tax abatement on that. Now, this is all in House Bill 15. And why did these legislators pass it? Well, you got to follow the money. Now, these farmers are getting $60 million for this farmland that was already overvalued at $1 million. What's he doing with all that money? I don't know. You got to ask a lot of questions here. So the more I keep digging, the more questions I find. But there's a lot of money out there for these data centers. They're given pretty much a free bill, because also in House Bill 96, there's also $1.1 million, because they come in as an LLC. So there's $1.1 million in tax credits on that, okay, or income tax. So then on top of it, they get sales tax credits on top of that. So they're not paying any sales tax. So they're like a nonprofit. All the equipment, the generators they buy, and all the processors, all tax exempt. So, and the problem I'm finding out too, when I went to that, to the First Energy, and I'm like, well, these data centers, I suppose you guys give them, lower discounted rates too on top of it. Because, oh no, we don't do it. They buy their energy through a third party like you guys do, and they buy it in bulk. So yeah, they get discounted rates through them. So, just like we go to a third party to buy our energy rate, but see, we're only buying it on the production end. Okay, it's not on the distribution end, which is another factor of our bill, which is half of the other half of the bill. So, we're only really saving on half of the bill, and it's only a sliver of that. So, this is more deception. It all ties into, because again, it's the property tax thing, because they're giving them these abatements. I mean, we're losing millions and millions of dollars. If these data centers came in and they didn't have any abatements at all, we're talking each data center, we'd be paying we're losing like $50 million to $100 million in revenue just from these data centers a year, just allowing these abatements alone. And that's the reality of it. And it's basically our legislators putting it in these bills. Basically, why? Again, why would they why would they in House Bill 96 go with a flat 2.75 tax, flat tax that would basically benefit all the higher wage earners? Again, who's given to their campaigns next year. So you got to follow the money, unfortunately, and that's why they're letting us down all the which way. And it's another thing. This is why it ties in with the property tax. Why we basically need to abolish it, because they're just that burden. Every tax abatement they give them, it puts a burden on us. Every time they save in sales tax, income tax, property tax, any kind of tax, okay, to the state or even to the communities, we suffer as a people, because that burden gets pushed on us no matter what. And that's the reality of it.
Okay, so this is real quick here. This is House Bill 427. It looks like it is currently in House committee. Yes. Committee. So they haven't even taken it up for a vote yet. Your thought, and leave us with this then. Your thought on, is this something that they're going to try to push through pretty quick, or?
Oh yeah, they're going to try to push this through. This is all the demand response program. They basically just want to allow these utility companies to put these pilot programs in place. I mean, it all sounds good hypothetically, but in reality, it's not going to work. I mean, it's just not going to work. It's not going to protect our baseload. I mean, it'll help, but then again, we need to do this if we don't allow another data center in. But like Brian was saying earlier, you know, these, you know, you have the Amazon, you have Meta, you have these data. That's one set of data centers. But now there's a whole other set of data centers that mine cryptocurrency. They mine Bitcoin. And those data centers suck up more power from our baseload 24/7, 365. And those are really hungry. And those run continuously. And those are the ones that sneak in and they just go to areas and talk about noise levels and loud, you know, because they're running. I mean, once they go in a neighborhood, there's no more crickets, no more birds, no more chirping. The animals are gone. You know, so again, if there's any wildlife, they just basically disappear because, again, these things, and then the water consumption, the noise level, it's just beyond, you know, and like I said, it makes people sick. It's just a vibration. And then the amount of RF and electromagnetic frequencies out there. You know, when you look at it all, they don't belong near residential areas. So, you know, what I'm looking is I did talk to Greg Lawson from the Buckeye Institute, and I'm talking with a couple of representatives now to see if we can get some kind of legislation out there that would create, you know, for beginners, like 5 major areas where we can have shovel-ready areas where they can put data centers. They come in, put their own power plant, data center in there, their own water filtration and cooling center, again, and basically have them all self-sufficient in a remote area. And all we have to do is just bring fiber optics to them. And, you know, that's what we're working on now, because we want them to come in, but we want to make money off of them. Right now, they're coming in and we're basically getting hosed, you know, and the state's not making any money, and it's costing us all money because whatever they're saving, it's costing us, the taxpayers, more money, you know, in one way or another. So, you know, that's why we need to do something and turn it around and make these things profitable for Ohio. You know, if they can come in and if they can make money, why can't we make money off of them? And then again, that's money that we can use to fund our schools, to fund our services, and take the burden of, you know, the property tax and all the other taxes off us. And I says, maybe even then, Ramaswamy, not only, he can then have a zero income tax, because if we let these data centers and manufacturing and Bitcoin centers come and pay their way, you know, that'll bring in enough revenue to eliminate the income tax, hopefully. So who knows? We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Well, thank you, John. Great. Keep us updated on all that, okay? Keep us updated. But thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless everybody. Hey, guys, thanks. Everybody, take care. Brian.
Hey, do we
Thanks a lot,
have
Jonathan.
time for a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a comment that I'd like to make that pertains to a live stream that we did a couple of weeks ago. We covered the elections, and I made some comments during that about somebody who was elected here in Geauga. And I suspect that this is going to be a growing trend, so I'm taking a moment to make this comment. Somebody was elected near me who identifies as female, born male, identifies as female. I keyed in and tried to make some comments on the whole notion that people, and it's a big steady drumbeat from the left that I find very frustrating, of trying to elect people based on some sort of characteristic. And we saw Biden do it when he said that he wanted the next Supreme Court justice to be a black woman. We, the people, should continue to put our foot down and insist on meritocracy. The whole notion, and this is what I find frustrating, and I tried to express articulately, I'm not sure that I did, during that live stream, we have to insist on our elected representatives being up to the task. It's come up recently in the context of airline pilots. We want the best pilots, not pilots selected because of their skin tone, religious background, or any of those sorts of characteristics. I find it very frustrating that the conversation both before and after, in the lead up to the election that took place locally, that this person was elected, was put in that position, and they were very open about it on the far left, because this is somebody who was born male and identifies as female. And that, to some people out there, checked the box and they were okay voting. That should never be okay. And I hope that more of us get vocal about that. I don't care if it's a white person, a black person, Middle Eastern, Hispanic, Asian, Jew, Muslim, atheist, Catholic, it doesn't matter. And it shouldn't ever matter. This is America. and we should do a better job of getting back to our roots, which is insisting on meritocracy. That's the comment that I was trying to make a few weeks ago. Thank you for allowing me a moment to clarify my position on that really important matter.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Brian. John Morrow, thank you. We'll talk to everybody
Thanks,
soon.
Shelby.
God bless you all. Shelby had to hit the road.
Okay.
You guys have a good
All
night.
right.
We'll see you.
Good night,
Thanks, John.
everyone.
Bye.